not for nothing, a lot of these guys like what we're saying, okay? So if someone interrupts them, we're talking about the wonders of Islam. Such a lovely religion. I wish I was one.
Convert.
Anyway, King Solomon builds the first temple, destroyed. Afterwards, during the time of Nehemiah and Ezra, they start to rebuild the second temple. Herod wants to do some remodeling. What does he do? He tears everything down. He makes a platform. In other words, he builds a retaining wall that is all the way around, 480 yards by 240 yards. The walls go up 176 feet. He levels out Mount Moriah. Literally, he shaves it off. He brings in hundreds of thousands of tons of landfill, and he builds a platform. And just about over here, he has an inner courtyard where he builds a temple. All right? That's Herod's temple. Mount Moriah, he builds into a platform. That's what we're standing on right now. Now, during the time of Herod, his building project was not completed. Herod never saw the completion of the second temple. It was probably during its last stages during the time of Christ. They say, if I'm not mistaken, it took 42 or 46 years to complete the second temple that was rebuilt by King Herod the Great. There was an outer courtyard, which they called the courtyard of the Gentiles, meaning that that was a place where anyone could come up and take a look. Then there was another inner courtyard just around over here someplace, and then of course the temple. I'm not going to call it the Holy of Holies because the Holy of Holies was running down. The Holy of Holies was lost with the first temple. Nobody knows where the Ark of the Covenant is. It's not recorded, it's not registered. We don't know what someone hid it for safekeeping and died in secret. We don't know if it was transported outside of the country. There's all kinds of rumors, there's all kinds of different beliefs. Some people believe that it's hidden in some chamber below ground and only some of the rabbis know. I don't think so. Some people say that it was taken out of the country for safekeeping. Listen, there's a small village in Ethiopia where there's a priestly family there. They take out this box and they claim that that's the Ark of the Lord. We don't know. Okay, but that's gone. All right. The temple and Jerusalem is totally destroyed by the Romans in August of the year 70 AD. That's the end of Jewish rule in the Holy Land until 1948. That is the end of Jewish rule in Jerusalem until 1967. Okay? I'm talking about East Jerusalem, where we are right now. For that whole period of time, whether it be Roman, Byzantine, Arab, Muslim, Crusader, Mameluke, Ottomans, British, we were ruled by somebody else. All right? But we still had that dream that one day, next year in Jerusalem, then it became a reality. But let's go back in history. From the year 70 onwards, the land of Israel was under full control of the Roman Empire. The Romans now approach the Jews and they say, listen, we're going to allow you to come upon the Temple Mount to pray by the ruins of the temple, but only once a year, on the date of its destruction, so that you'll never forget who did it to you. So once a year, until today, there's a day of fasting, a day of mourning. It's called Tisha B'Av, when they remember the destruction of the second temple. I don't know. I don't think it's a coincidence because God don't do things coincidental. But the date of the destruction of the first temple by the Babylonians is the exact date of the destruction by the Romans, which is the exact date in 1940 where a bunch of Nazi officers got together and officials in a small town in Germany to discuss the final solution, the Holocaust. All right. From the year 70 onwards, the Romans said, listen, you can come up here and pray by the ruins of the temple, but you cannot build another one. So for the next 250 years, one day a year, the Jews come up and pray by the ruins. Now there's a transition. The Romans become Christian. That's the Byzantine Empire. The Christians now say to the Jews, listen, we're going to continue with the same tradition that the Romans did. So now for the next 300 years, one day a year, the Jews come up to pray by the ruins of the temple. All of a sudden, out of the Arabian Peninsula, we have a new faith, a new religion, Islam. Now, according to Islamic belief, and it's not even written in the Quran anywhere, you won't see the name Jerusalem once in the Quran, but it says that Muhammad, before he ascended to heaven, he flew to the high place on his winged horse named Barak, and he comes here to the place where Abraham was to sacrifice who?
Isaac.
Ishmael. And before he ascends to heaven, his horse leaves a hoof print on the exposed stone. Therefore, they build the Golden Dome. The Dome of the Rock represents the ascension to heaven of Muhammad. And then they start to build this mosque over here. This is called the Al-Aqsa Mosque. These two buildings are the third holiest site in Islam. Mecca, Medina, and this, well, I can't call it the Temple Mount because they don't recognize the temple. As far as Islam is concerned, there was no such thing as any temples. Guys were physically standing on someone's platform, right? Someone built this platform. It was Herod, right? How do you deny that? Both if you take a look at the mosques, you can see that it's a patchwork of stones. You see pieces of pillars right over here. Where do they come from? They ain't Muslim. They were found here, right? No, they're Herod's. And then all the pieces of pillars that you see that they've inaugurated inside all the buildings, those were part of the porticos. There was 2,000 pillars of solid marble. They reused all of the stones, so how can you deny that something wasn't here if you just renewed all their stones? And plus, was physically standing on something. Doesn't make a difference. Now Islam approaches their cousins, the Jews, and they say, listen, we don't quite understand why for the last 600 years the Byzantines and the Romans allowed you to come up here to pray, but you can't come up here no more. Go find yourself someplace else to pray. Can I have that book back again? So they say, and the Jews say, what do we even do? Now, if this is the western wall of the Temple Mount where we are right now, the Muslims just built up against it. Isn't it less expensive to build a house with 3 walls instead of 4? The wall's right over here. But they left a little space here. Okay? And they said, the closest that you can get to the Temple Mount is just this little segment of a western wall. You can pray there. So that's why this little segment of the western wall is called the Wailing Wall. Because this is the closest that the Jews could get to remember the temple. So from that time, from the year 690 until today, the Jews remember the temple by going to this little segment of a retaining wall. It's not even part of the temple. It's part of the Temple Mount complex. All right? Now, as a tourist, of course, anybody can come up here, but the Muslims would never allow Jews to pray up here. They wouldn't allow you guys to pray up here. They wouldn't even allow you to carry a Bible. Even if you're carrying a Bible in your bag, they will confiscate it. Can you believe that? In any event. Okay, so we got to the Muslim period. So the Muslims built the Golden Dome to commemorate Muhammad's ascension to heaven, and they built the Al-Aqsa Mosque. 400 years later, the Holy See in the West, the Pope, says we want to take back the land from the infidel, from the Muslims, because they're desecrating and destroying all of our churches, and they're kidnapping, enslaving, and murdering all of the pilgrims coming to the Holy Land. The Crusades begin. In the year 1099, the Crusaders arrive here. They take the city of Jerusalem, and they take over the whole Temple Mount. They take over the church that's behind us, and they turn it into a palace. They take the Golden Dome, which represents the ascension of Muhammad, and they turn it into a church. And they call it the Temple of Abraham. And now we have a knightly order that's guarding the Temple Mount. Who are these guys called? The Templars, the Knight Templars. Remember, they looked like they wore the white cloaks with the big red cross on them, okay? They were supposed to be the custodians, and they were supposed to be the helpers and escorts of all the pilgrims coming into the Holy Land. They're the ones that started all that knights chivalry and all that. That was the Templars. So now, Jerusalem is in the hands of the Crusaders. The Crusader king declares himself the king of the Holy Latin Kingdom. That's what the Holy Land is now called. It's called the Holy Latin Kingdom. And he is the king of the Holy Latin Kingdom. That is his palace. It lasts for about 100 years. In July of 1187, Saladin comes down from the north with 200,000 horsemen and infantry, and they attack the Crusaders. They finally destroy the Crusader army at a major battle just outside of Tiberias, and then they lay siege to Jerusalem, and they capture the city. They totally level and destroy every church that's in the city. They take over the Temple Mount area, and from 1187 until today, the Temple Mount is in the hands of the Muslims. Okay? Until today. Now, the overall security here, obviously, all the police and the soldiers here are all Israelis. Okay? But because it's such a